So this is what we're making, a 3-pearl wraparound adjustable ring. The wire I'm using is half round, 2 millimeters wide, 1.3 millimeters high. So get your ring size. It can be an existing ring or you can use a ring sizer. When you get the size, write down the letter or the number, depending on where you are. Measure the inside diameter using your calipers. Stay on the knife edge of the calipers. Don't drop down in this little groove. When you get that number, put it on your paper, because this way you'll have a record of what you're doing. And if you forget, you don't have to go back into your brain. You can look on the paper. Now, when you get your inside diameter, add the height of the wire, multiply by 3.14. That'll give you the circumference of the circle plus the thickness of the wire to compensate for the thickness. So when you get this length, because of the ring we're making, you need to multiply by 2. So my length that I came up with was 59 millimeters, so twice that is 118. So I'm just going to measure that roughly. And I'm just going to chop it with my bolt cutters because we're going to do something with the end, so we'll have to file it again anyway. So check it again, make sure the length is right. Now we need to anneal this. Now it doesn't matter what torch you're using, you're just going to heat your metal until it's a dull red. I just start at one end and work my way down. Now with sterling, when you heat it up, when it's annealed, it'll be a dull gray when you finish. If it isn't a dull gray, chances are you haven't heated it enough. So now we'll just quench this in water. Well, dry off your metal after you've quenched it, and I'm going to planish the end, or I'm going to hammer on the end using the slightly rounded surface of my planishing hammer. So this is what we want. We want it flattened to about half the thickness, but we want it spread out so that we can make a pearl cup with that. So do both ends. Now we're going to file the end smooth, just round it off a bit. So we end up with this rather than this. So we're just making it nicer on the end, and when you hammer it, you tend to get a really thin edge at the very end. So we're just taking that thin edge away. So once you get that done, 400 grade sandpaper on a sanding stick, just tidy up the end a little, make sure it's not rough. Now, to put our cup in this, we need to anneal it again because we've work hardened it by hammering on it. And it's hard enough that we wouldn't be able to get a cup without annealing it again. You only have to anneal the ends, the rest of it's still annealed. So just heat these two ends up until they're a dull red, quench them, and then I'll show you the next step. So I'm using a 6mm diameter dapping punch, doming punch. This is a really firm piece of urethane. I forget what the durometer is. You could use something like a piece of pine, softwood, and it'll do the same thing. So place your punch in the middle and you could hit it a few times, but what you want is a little cup like this. Do both ends. Now we're just going to wrap this around our ring mandrel, and your mandrel should have markings on it for sizes. I'm doing an O, so I'm going to start a few sizes smaller and just hold the end with your thumb, wrap it around, slide it down, so there's my size, and I'm just going to take a rawhide hammer and gently tap those ends down because I don't want to flatten out my depression. So there's the ring. Now what we're going to do is put a cup in the middle for our third pearl peg, and we're just going to take a center punch, which is just a little pointed punch, and I'm going to put a dot right in the middle, right in between these two existing cups. So we're just going to put that in the middle of the ring. And we end up with a little depression where we're going to put our cup and pearl peg for our third pearl. So I have 0.8 of a millimeter square wire, and I have a 6mm hemisphere that I've drilled a hole in. So we're just going to position the square wire onto that little depression in the ring, and then we'll drop the cup down and we'll solder it all in one place, all in one go. So when you get it all lined up, flux it in the cup and underneath the cup on the ring. Now we're going to put our solder inside the cup. I'm using a 3mm long piece because I have 3 places I want it to solder. So I'm just pushing the solder against the square wire, and I'm going to heat from underneath. So a neutral flame. And you really want to watch your flame because you don't want to heat anything other than underneath the pearl cup. So that's done. Now we'll quench it and have a look and make sure that the solder is flowed underneath. So once you're happy with this bit, what I've done is I've spread this apart so that I can solder the next two without overheating the middle. So just position your square wire in the middle of your piece that you've hammered, and we just want it lightly touching. Otherwise, when you heat it up, it's going to bend the wire. So flux it. Two 2mm long piece of hard solder, positioned so that it's touching both the ring and the square wire. Neutral flame. Dry out your flux. Flux will go clear and the solder will flow. And that's what we want. So we'll clip this, do the other side. So I've got about a 6mm long piece so that I can grab it and twist it. And we want to file our wire flat before we position it on the next one. So once again, gentle pressure. In the middle of the flat bit, flux it. Position your solder with your brush. Gently warm the piece to dry out your flux, and I'm just holding real gentle pressure down with my finger on the third hand. Done. And we'll quench it in water and clip our wire. And have a real good look at all of our solder joints. We want to see the meniscus in between everything. So I'll just clip this wire and we'll pickle it. Okay, we're out of the pickle. Dry off the ring. Have a really good look at all of your solder joins. Like you can see underneath the cup that there's a really good join. That's what we want. And then you look up on top, you want to see the solder everywhere. Now, grab the end of your wire, and we've left these 5 or 6 millimeters long. Grab the very end, give it a good twist, so you want to be able to see the twist in the wire. Do all 3. If you don't have a good solder join here, it'll just snap off. So now we're going to take our chain nose pliers, grab this, make sure that the wire is straight up and down, because it will affect how your pearl goes on. So tidy it up, make it nice and pretty. And then, with your side cutters, cut these so that they're about 2 millimeters long. We want that to go up in the pearl, but we don't want it so long that it holds the pearl up off this bottom. So that's what it should look like. Now, I've already hallmarked it, so it's just a matter of putting it in a tumbler, making it all nice and shiny, and then gluing our pearls on. And for your information, the pickle that I use is sodium bisulfate, and the tumbler I use is just a rotating tumbler with assorted stainless shot. So we'll tumble this. We could push these back together, but you need to remember that there's a 6 millimeter round pearl on each one of these, so you don't want to get it too close. Okay, we're out of the tumbler. You can see it's looking pretty good. Now, dry it off. Have a real close look at everything, because once we set the pearls, you won't be able to change anything. So I have 3 half-drilled pearled, white, gray, and black. And I'm going to run a 1 millimeter bit in just to make sure the hole is cleaned out and deep enough. So I'm going to do all 3. And I just hold them in my fingers. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to spin your drill up very fast, because it'll just burn up your drill bit. So now we're going to check the fit on the pearls. Make sure they go all the way down. Lovely. Now I'll take it off and take them off and put the glue on. I'm using 2-part epoxy. It's 5-minute. And you have to mix an equal amount. I usually mix a little more than I need. and I use a cocktail toothpick to mix. They're quite handy, and you can get a whole pack of them in your supermarket for cheap. So what I do is I just put a dot of the glue on the hole, and then I push it down in with the toothpick, and then I put another dot right on the top. So that way the hole is completely full. So we just set that in place and do the next one. And you do have 5 minutes, so you don't have to rush. And the last one. Leave your toothpick and your glue. And I use my flat half-round pliers to just gently squeeze the pearl to make sure it's all the way down. And by using the half round, it fits on the inside of the ring and doesn't leave a mark. And it pushes everything down the way it's supposed to be. Lovely. And now, because I have a cup on the middle one, I'll just raise the outside ones a little bit to match. There it is. And it's adjustable because nothing is soldered other than the pearl pegs, so none of the rings are soldered together.